This video is made possible by NordVPN. Start protecting your internet experience today at nordvpn.com/TopTenz and use code TopTenz to get 70% off NordVPN. It's only $3.49 a month, plus a month for free. And let's get into it. Before Edward Snowden revealed to us an unprecedented amount of the National Security Agency's activities in 2013, most of us were only vaguely familiar with the Shadowy organization and its information-gathering ways. The NSA has its tendrils in virtually every digital aspect of our daily lives, to the point that one of their automated information-collecting programs is probably watching this right now, hello, and trying to figure out if we're a threat to national security. We're not. While information about their current activities is few and far between, thanks to Mr. Snowden and his leaked documents, we do have some insight into the things that the NSA was up to in 2013 and before that, and it's not really pretty. In the video today, we're looking at some of the agency's strangest antics. Number 10. Angry Birds. No, this isn't just a fun code name, or in fact a code name at all. It's that Angry Birds, the one you're thinking of. In 2014, The Guardian reported that the NSA, along with its significantly less catchy British counterpart, GCHQ, were looking into various techniques where they could sneak up all of the leaks from your favorite iPhone apps, up to and very much including the world-famous Birds vs. Pigs game. The idea was to slip through the security cracks of the apps in order to reach the user's personal data, which would provide the agencies with a number of significant advantages. They would gain access to a huge amount of the kind of data that would allow them to exploit people's phone information on a mass scale, instead of just having to hack their way into our phones one by one like a commoner. Location was also a target as well. When you use Google Maps to find a place, the NSA can use it to find you. The NSA seems to put great value on such technology, to the point where one 2010 presentation called it a golden nugget before rattling off a long list of information the agency could gather up from just a single picture uploaded on social media. Fortunately, this plan was among the documents that Edward Snowden leaked in 2013, so at least we're aware that some of America's taxpayer dollars go towards surreptitiously scrolling through your contact list whenever you play Candy Crush. Number 9. Boundless Informant. Congress has occasionally challenged the NSA about what they do with all the data they collect on American citizens. One of the agency's go-to defenses has been that they have no way of keeping track of the waves of information crashing on their shores. But in 2013, it turned out that a secretive agency might, in fact, have been lying about its methods. It's shocking, we know. Boundless Informant is a highly sophisticated data mining tool the NSA uses to analyze and record its surveillance information. It's essentially a hyper-competent archivist that sifts through the sea of data and arranges it into neat folders. However, it doesn't appear to do it by user, unless they decide to take a personal interest in you. Boundless Informant probably doesn't have a folder of your most embarrassing emails and IMs. Instead, the system sifts through the incoming information by counting and categorizing the communications records metadata, that's sets of data that describes other data. However, the level of detail it goes into even includes individual IP addresses, which, as you may know, can absolutely be used to track your location. Number 8. Dishfire. SMS texting is slowly but steadily going the way of the dodo as instant messaging platforms are taking over, but the NSA has been collecting them like they were coming back in fashion. According to the 2013 data leak, the Dishfire program performs a daily, global, and supposedly untargeted sweep of SMS messages and took them to a second program called Prefer, which automatically analyzed them for assorted red flags. The agency was head over heels about this particular avenue of information collection, to the point where a 2011 presentation was titled SMS Text Messages, a Goldmine to Exploit. And they weren't exactly wrong either. Automated messages, international roaming charge texts, missed call alerts, electronic business cards, and text-to-text payments gave them access to unprecedentedly clear metadata in huge droves. To put the scale of these operations into context, at the time of the leaks, the NSA was able to collect over 5 million missed call alerts, around 800,000 money transactions, 1.6 million border crossings, 110,000 names, 76,000 people's real-time locations, and a total of nearly 200 million SMS messages, and that's all per day. Number 7. Egoistical Goat and its friends. The anonymous Tor network is obviously a bit of a problem for an information-gathering agency like the NSA, but it appears the agency has already made some progress to lift its veil of secrecy. To crack down on Tor's information safe, the agency created a number of programs with increasingly stupid names, all lovingly crafted to compromise Tor anonymity. There was Egoistical Goat and its sister programs Egoistical Giraffe and Erroneous Identity, which tried to worm their way into the Firefox parts of the Tor bundles in order to identify users. Before then, the NSA had Myliner, which was meant to divert Tor users to insecure channels, and a marking operation called Mulanese, which was the online equivalent of a surveillance helicopter trying to shoot a tracking device into a car before it drives into a hidden tunnel. Meanwhile, Britain's version of the NSA, GCHQ, did its level best to outdo its American counterparts' ridiculous code names by trying to crack Tor with operations like Epic Fail and Onion Breath. Despite all their antics, the NSA's success rate at identifying Tor users was spotty at best, but, well, really, who knows what they've come up with since 2013. Number 6. Gilgamesh. It's one thing for the NSA to want to know about people's information, and completely another to then use that information to find out your location and then give it to the Joint Security Operations Command in case they need to bomb you. This explosive application of NSA tracking technology, well, that's called Gilgamesh, and it's essentially what would happen if a bunch of NSA's geolocation tracking technologies married a predator drone. Thanks to the vast array of online information available to them, the NSA has taken to recommending drone targets with complex metadata analysis instead of relying on human intelligence. However, The Intercept points out that while the tactic has had some success, it has by no means been particularly accurate and reliable. One drone pilot operating with NSA-dictated targets had admitted that it absolutely has resulted in innocent people getting killed. So this video, rather appropriately, is sponsored by NordVPN. Digital spying is totally a thing. You've just seen 5 examples so far, and the worst 5 are yet to come. But before we get into that, let me take a moment to tell you about NordVPN. If you're buying things online and using a public Wi-Fi spot, maybe you're in a coffee shop just browsing the internet, well, you really should be using a VPN, and that's where NordVPN comes in. I know it's tempting not to bother and kind of just hope for the best while buying things online and punching in your credit card information, but really those stories you read about online of people having, their information stolen, they really do happen, and you don't want to be that person. Just don't make it easy for people. Whenever I'm browsing on public Wi-Fi, I'll just fire up NordVPN and I'll just have it running in the background, so I don't really even have to think about it. It's just sitting there protecting me. But it's not all just about security. You can also change the country that you appear to be in. So, for example, if I want to watch content that is geo-restricted to a specific location, I just jump into Nord, I select the appropriate country, and boom, we're good to go. NordVPN is also super fast, so if you were thinking of watching videos through NordVPN, unlike some VPNs where it gets really laggy, that is not the case with NordVPN. It's super fast. You can also use it across all of your devices. In fact, you can use it on 6 different devices with just 1 account, and unlike other VPNs that are based in the United States or the EU, NordVPN is in Panama, so they don't have to keep any logs, which is great for your privacy. NordVPN is also the only VPN to get a perfect score from PC Mag. So start protecting your internet experience today at nordvpn.com/TopTenz and use the code TopTenz to get 70% off NordVPN. It's only $3.49 a month, plus you get a month for free. And let's get into those top 5. Number 5. Optic Nerve. To be fair, Optic Nerve was technically a brainchild of GCHQ, but since the NSA happily assisted with it, we're going to let it slide. It was a codename for a surveillance program that surreptitiously collected a bunch of images from Yahoo's webcam chats from all over the world by the million, with little to no regard whether the people they were collecting the information from were persons of interest or not. Now, this might be pretty creepy in and of itself, but becomes doubly so when you remember the sort of stuff that tends to go on in webcam chats. Yes, of course, we're talking about nudity, and judging from the scale of the operation, there was plenty of it. In fact, leaked documents reveal that GCHQ actually had some trouble keeping all the naked pictures away from the interested eyes of its employees, which is kind of even scarier than it just stealing images in bulk. Understandably, Yahoo was less than thrilled to find out about the situation, which they say happened only when the British media reached out to ask some questions. The company called Optic Nerve a whole new level of violation of our users' privacy, and really, It's hard to argue with them. Number 4. Prism. Prism is a massive surveillance program that started in 2007 and came to light when the Washington Post and The Guardian whipped out a pile of leaked documents in 2013. Technically, Prism was and is a system for monitoring foreign communication passing through American servers. However, in practice, they monitored everything they possibly could and gathered their data from providers that you might be familiar with. As of 2013, tiny companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Yahoo, Skype, and the like had to hand the NSA remarkable access to their servers and the vast buckets of data that they collected from their users. NSA can use this giant pool of information to a terrifying degree, to the point where they could just directly access your specific information and spy on every little thing you do online. The only caveat is that some analyst in their machinery has to vouch that they're like 51% sure that you're probably foreign. Maybe. Number 3. Upstream. If you thought the NSA was happy just spying on what you do on the internet, well, worry not, there is more to come. Upstream is basically the same deal as Prism, just with telecommunication companies such as Verizon and AT&T, and does it in a much more classic spying capacity. While Prism relies on intangible tech shenanigans, Upstream has physically installed a host of surveillance equipment to the internet's physical backbone, the routers, cables, and other gear that carry all online traffic. The NSA uses this infiltration to track down specific keywords related to potential foreign intelligence activity, though even this noble-ish intent is rendered moot by the fact that they also often target the media, legal attorneys, and human rights people instead of just supposed spies and suspected terrorists. The American Civil Rights Union has called the practice unprecedented and unlawful. Number 2. Bullrun. What good is stealing data from countless unwary people if you don't know what to do with it? The NSA answered this question with the codename Bullrun, a state-of-the-art decryption program that can straight-up decode the encryption used by several prominent providers, which means they can read your emails with the greatest of ease should the need arise. This powerful signals intelligence weapon is built by stealthily working with large tech companies to install weaknesses into their products and then exploiting these openings with their own decryption tools. This way, the NSA and GCHQ are able to browse through not only their targets' emails, but also their bank accounts and medical history. Essentially, if you have personal information online, Bullrun can work out a way to decrypt it. Bullrun's importance to the NSA can easily be seen by looking at its budget. When Edward Snowden brought the system out into the open in 2013, Prism's operating costs, they were around $20 million a year. Bullrun, though? Well, that's over $250 million. Number 1. Fascia. The Fascia database was among the more interesting documents Edward Snowden leaked. It was a massive collection of metadata consisting of all sorts of call information, IP addresses, and things like that. What made the project so impressive and scary was its sheer scale. Though the document dates back to January 2004, it is said that Fascia 2 had over 85 billion metadata records, and an estimated 125 million were added on a daily basis. Leaked graphs indicate that the system has evolved since, and in 2012, Fascia already received 5 billion device location records every day. There's no telling what that number is now, but smart money would probably say that it's significantly larger. The NSA started getting a hold of all this metadata during the War on Terror by straight up forcing phone companies to just hand it over to the agency. Originally, this data included pretty intimate stuff, such as the numbers you called and the duration of said calls, though not the actual content. In 2015, the process was slightly changed, so the USA could only collect bulk metadata and look at an individual person's records if they had a court order. Even so, the NSA has called this system one of its most useful tools and said that it has helped them capture multiple terror suspects. So I really hope you found that video, well, kinda terrifying. If you did, thumbs up below, please. Also, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and if you are subscribed, go down below. Don't unsubscribe, but hit that bell so you find out when we put out a new video, which we typically do every single day, so that's great. Also, why not check out my other channel called Biographics? It's biographies of notable people from history. Find that link to below as well. And as always, thank you for watching.